Hey, it's Bruce Feldman. Pleased to be joined by Oregon State head coach Jonathan Smith, coming off a exhilarating, very entertaining show the other night and a big win against Fresno State. Jonathan, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, it's always good to get with you.
So let me ask you, let's get into the way that all played out. What's going through your mind as you're setting up that are you having second thoughts? Like, what was your thought process before Jack Coletto's big run?
Yeah, well, it kind of starts with the play before. There's a pass interference, and we're waiting on some clarity whether it was pass interference in the end zone, which puts the ball at the 2-yard line, or if it starts before he gets to the end zone, and now it's half the distance. And so we're waiting for clarity there. Once we got that, talking about a couple calls, what do you think? Clock was moving a little bit. Decided to the way we'd been playing defense in the red zone, we were holding them some field goals during the game. Decided to kick it, take the group out there, and then they called timeout. Had a little bit more time to digest, and really, it ultimately came down to if you kick it, the best you can do is tie. Or obviously you go for it. You got an opportunity to win on the road. Felt good with our short yardage, Jack Coletto, and we went with it.
How much is your mindset going, you know what, even if they don't get it, I want them to know I believe in them, that they're going to get it. It's like sending a message to the team more than anything.
Yeah, I think there's something to that. And our guys talked about it after the game of, we went down there with one goal in mind to win a game. He had an opportunity to do it. I do trust our guys on both sides, want to give them the opportunity to win the game on the field. And so the players liked the call. And I do think there's some value psychologically, confidence-wise, of attacking the win.
Jack is an interesting guy. We talked to him last year. I'm kind of shocked that he's still in college, kind of thing. Like I know he transferred in there. I feel like he could have been a teammate of yours, for Coach Erickson. It feels like he's been there so long. How much do you think his personality kind of epitomizes how you guys have elevated this program and rebuild it?
I think his personality has helped elevate our place because of his work ethic. He's really smart. Football means a lot to him. You can trust him. He's well liked on the team. Just the type of guy he is outside of the locker room. And we've got a few guys that have been around the block. Like you say, Jack's been in the program for a while. We got a lot of guys like that. And we are player-led around here with the leadership we have. It's just kind of low ego, high output of a lot of our leaders, and it's turning into a program that we're proud of.
It's a little bit of an aberration. I feel like we should call him Mr. Grant because he's another guy who's been there forever, right? But a lot of times these guys, not these guys, but players transfer out. They can't wait to get to the NFL. Or if they can't, they're gonna reshuffle the deck and go hit the reset button someplace else. I mean, is it the kind of kids that were recruited here, or do you feel like it's as much just the bond that they have with you, the staff and the team, that has gotten guys to stay committed?
Yeah, I lean toward the bond. Again, I think guys enjoy playing here. I think guys enjoy that they're pushed to develop and get better. It's an ultimate team game here in football, and I think we're trying to establish that the star of our team is the team. And I think guys like that. We've been fortunate with the consistency and the amount of players that we've got back, and that's why we've got a veteran roster. Again, there's different ways of doing it. There's good players that are in the portal, and again, I'm not down on guys that go in the portal. Different situations, reasons for leaving, fit not right, all of that. But we've been fortunate. We feel like we've kept a lot of good players around here.
I'm curious, I remember this is maybe 15 years ago, and I know you're a big sports fan beyond football, but when college basketball started getting the one and done, you'd see some teams that wouldn't get those players and they'd start to thrive because they had a bunch of glue guys or whatever the term was. It feels a little bit like in the era of the portal being such a process. And I'm not saying you guys aren't engaged in it at all, but that you have been able to build something because of program guys, maybe more than some other places who are constantly reshuffling the deck, and so there's more highs and lows. You think that's a fair assessment, or is that?
I think for our current roster this season, we've got a lot of, however you describe it, glue guys. I feel proud of this coaching staff and the work ethic of our players, guys that have been in the program for 2 or 3 years. I think they're better players. I think they've gotten bigger, faster, stronger, understand the game, playing with some confidence. And so that's what I want to be, a program where you spend some time in the program, you get better as a player and a person. Again, each year is going to be new. depending on departures, we're going to have a lot to graduate. We might be heavier in the portal this next year, but currently for this roster, I think these guys have been around the block and gotten better.
How big of his deal was it? You're very familiar with Jake Haener. You know how talented he is. I'm sure you saw last year when he upset, not single-handedly, but he gave UCLA fits that night and just kept coming. To beat that team the other night with him, obviously Fresno State has a lot of respect. You know that program well. Sometimes people don't look at a Mountain West program and say that was a statement win, but I think probably it's a bigger deal than I guess most people outside the West would probably realize. Would you? Do you see it that way, or was it just like we're just moving on to the next one?
No, that's a good team. Fresno, Jake Haener's a good player. They've got talent. That's an awesome home atmosphere they got over there. I think the place felt sold out, energy. It's not an easy place. Well coached. Jeff Tedford does a phenomenal job. So there's no question that's a good win in our mind, which all wins are good. But I got a bunch of respect. Jake Haener is one of the better throwers in my mind in the country right now. He threw some darts in that game. That's why I just appreciated the game. Yeah, we came out on top, but I thought it was 60 minutes of two teams going back and forth, making plays, having to overcome adversity. It was a beautiful football game.
You have a tricky game next because it's an FCS opponent, but it's not your typical FCS opponent in Montana State. I mean, do you have to remind your players about how good of a team this is just to get them refocused, or like how do you, is it something as simple as just getting them to watch the film, or how do you get that message after a big emotional win? Because they're still, even if they're a little older, they're still college kids.
Yeah, we'll talk about it Tuesday morning. Again, we want to be process based around here, and so we've got a weekly process whoever we're playing, but the way we pay respect to our opponent is our preparation for them. Tuesday morning for sure. I'll let these guys know. Montana State has won a bunch of football games. They playing for the national championship last year. They got good players. They had 2 guys drafted last year off their roster. Got a bunch of guys back, and so they'll have our full attention. It's happening all over college football. Of maybe supposedly teams that should win don't, and so we'll have to have a big time week and play really well on Saturday to have a chance to win.
I know you're in the middle of this season, but what is the expectation, or like if there is a goal you put in for 2022 for this team, knowing what you had coming back?
Yeah, I think our goal is to play and win every week. And I think we're at a position now that, we're going to have to play really well to win some games. But week in and week out, we feel confident we're ready to compete and have a chance to win. And so if that's the case, truly the case, then you get a chance to win it all and win championships and things. And so I don't think you cut short of like, we're trying to get 8, 9, this type of thing. We're week by week. I do want a goal, we talk about it. We want to be playing our best football at the end of the season, because if our process is right and we're improving and learning each week and preparing each week, well, after 12 weeks, you should be playing your best football at the end.
Back some 20, maybe it's 25 years ago now, you had that team that beat Notre Dame in the bowl. You had great receivers, really good linebackers. Obviously, that team won a lot of games. I don't want to put the cart before the horse with this team, but what ways do you see that team that you quarterbacked similar to what you have right now with this group?
Yeah, I think similarities were competitive. I mean, that 2000 team was really competitive, both sides of the ball. I think about the practices that took place during that year of, because you're right, we had some players on offense, some players on defense. Each day at practice was really competitive. I think that's similar to what we got going now, especially going through fall camp when you're battling against each other every day. And there's some similarities there. There was some talent in 2000. I think we got some talent now. But again, we're 2 weeks into this thing. We'll find out at the end of the year what other comparisons we got.
We've had some good conversations between us about your passion and fandom for the Dodgers as a Southern California guy. I'm curious because, and I know you got to spend some time with their manager about a month ago. Who were the biggest influences on your coaching style as you come up?
Yeah, I did get a chance to talk to Dave Roberts there before the game. You talk about impressive, just humble. I mean, at the top of his game in the biggest profession. How humble he was for 10 minutes to share a little time with my son and his buddy. Anyhow, on my end, influencers, definitely Chris Peterson jumps off the page. Spent 6 years with him, learned a ton, even taking over as a head coach 5 years ago. Couldn't exactly be Coach Pete because I wasn't, but there's sure some things that we established around here that I learned from him. Influencers, a couple of head coaches that I played for with Mike Riley and Dennis Erickson. And I think you're learning all the time. But Pete for sure has a huge, by far the most influence. And then I think about the coaches I played for.
With Coach Pete, I mean, he's interesting because he's very open now about the work-life balance, and obviously he had an amazing career as a coach. I'm curious, you know a lot about where he's at mentally. Is that a caution? I don't say is that a cautionary tale, but like, how do you balance the passion to be the best you can be as a coach with some of the real challenges that come from being a coach? I don't even want to say at the highest level, but just being a coach, and then giving into maybe your own sometimes not best instincts in terms of maybe for work-life balance. I know like you said, you have a son who's younger that you're close to. And so how are you kind of managing that as your star is kind of taking off as a coach now?
Yeah, again, I go back to conversations I've had with Pete and the balance and what he learned as he went through the profession, and now that he's looking back on some things. He's been great in just talking about perspective. Obviously we are chasing and we want to win, and we want to recruit at the highest level, get the best players, find the ways to get them better and better and win. And it's competitive, man. And that there's nothing wrong with that. But also the perspective of, it's not just about wins, stats, followers, National Football League. It's also about adding some value to these guys' lives, adding value to our staff and my life, and be this beautiful game of football that we get to coach, how we can teach and talk about life through the game of football, but also be the type of man, father, husband you want to be. I think we've got a lot of that going here in Corvallis, especially the convenience that it allows for our coaches to sneak home or get around their kids and again, have some balance to their life.
For you, what will you define as a successful season this year?
Yeah, like I say, I think, again, we want to win a lot. If we're playing our best ball at the end of the year, I think success would be, you look at individually side of the ball, and those guys continue to grow and develop and we're competitive and finding ways to win at the end. That's what I'd say.
I mean, do you feel like last year was, I know it maybe didn't end maybe exactly the way you wanted to, but it felt like, just from the outside, it felt like you guys kept ascending. I mean,
yeah, I'd agree that we were ascending. I think we left some meat on the bone last year, where we kind of hit middle of the year where we're at, and didn't finish as well as we wanted to. But again, there's some success in winning more than you're losing, and especially where the program was at. So I don't want to downplay that, but obviously wasn't satisfied.
All right. Well, Jonathan, best of luck this weekend and the rest of the season. It's always good to catch up with you. It's always kind of good that when you see somebody who's in the middle of it, I like it, the reason why we know the Dodgers stuff is because my old partner was Joe Davis, who's the voice of the Dodgers. But like, you'd see somebody who's like, there was a normalcy there when you say, oh, this guy's a big fan of something. Just like, sometimes I think for people outside, you forget football coaches who are in the middle of this grind, that's not the only thing that, you forget that people have families, you forget that there's all this other stuff going on. And it was neat to see how much you it was like, I think fans would relate to fans in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I think there's the normalcy of all of us coaches. I mean, I think something normal, it's typical on Thursdays. Usually coaches go home early. Well, my wife will text me and like, here, there's the grocery list. And so on my way home from Thursday after practice, I'm going through the grocery store, picking up some things for dinner. And so we are living normal lives to an extent with these awkward hours we're going through during the season.
Yeah. Well, best of luck the rest of the way. It's always great talking to you. Thanks, John.
Thanks, Bruce. Yep.
Okay.